not that one. Here we go. This is a presentation of National Streaming Sports. Over 20 podcasters, 70 weekly shows, and a 3.4-star rating on Roku TV. National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by BetUs.com, designed for true fans. NFL odds, Week 1 and futures, college football odds, including Heisman Trophy favorites and playoff odds, NBA odds of division winners and playoffs, Major League Baseball playoff and World Series odds, the National Hockey League Conference playoffs and Stanley Cup odds, and boxing wagers. Betting opportunities include versus the spreads and outright winners, also during the game. Use our link on our website, nessp.info, the Bet Us Opportunities webpage, for a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. Must be 21 years old, and remember, bet responsibly.
Without LeBron, Lakers are strong.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know Mattel's Cowboys did this win.
So I don't know, Jack. It's a big decision.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying space.
Pittsburgh at Buffalo.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought I was right. So anyway,
Yeah, Max, you're really interested in these playoffs.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
And it's Wednesday, Jack, and we're rolling right down through the week here. Welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show here on National Streaming Sports. Starting off your day on the Roku channel, I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch. Welcome to the show. People are here now, people that will be coming on later and watching us later on all our platforms. I said, yeah, okay. The producer's pointing things out to me. So anyway, as you heard that commercial, we are Bet Us is one of our sponsors, and real easy. We have the QR code at the top right of the show for mobile homes or mobile phones. Jack, just take the mobile phone, scan it, and you go right to their site. So, Jack, let's get to the sports. That's why we're here. Start with the wild card races. All these teams, as you pointed out, Monday are pretty much in, whether it's a wild card or, as a division winner. There might be a couple things. If somebody gets hot, somebody gets cold, that might change. But pretty much this is it. So we have in the American League right now, division leaders, the New York Yankees, Cleveland Indians, and Houston Astros, with Baltimore right up.
Correction, Mac. Kansas City Royals pulled even with the Cleveland Guardians. They're even in the standings, tied for first place. So technically, if the season ended, one of them would be a wild card. I'm not sure which one would be a wild card officially, but that's going to work itself out.
The tiebreakers, right? The tiebreakers.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the tiebreak would be. It's unimportant right now because there's a lot of activity still ahead of us. But they are tied. Kansas City, remarkable comeback. They won a number of games against the Guardians, and the Guardians are faltering, Mac, but their manager says it doesn't matter what goes on during this season where you are. It matters where you are at the end of the season. But right behind both of them are the Minnesota Twins. There's something like 2.5 games behind both of them.
Yeah.
And the Guardians can't afford to falter anymore because not only could they lose the division lead, who knows what could happen in the wild card hunt if that happened. But they're
No
even.
doubt. So
Royals and the
those, but
Guardians even.
we're pretty much set up with those 6 teams anyway. So
Yeah.
anything could happen, Jack.
Right.
Somebody go on an unbelievable losing streak, but right now we're pretty set with
They're
that.
pretty much,
We
it
also
looks
have
that
in the
way.
National League.
Boston's unlikely to catch one of them, put it that way. Boston's a few games behind.
Right. So in the National League right now, Dodgers, the Phillies, the Brewers right now are in first, and of course Arizona, San Diego, and Atlanta are right now the wild card teams. I mean,
Right.
you could say that Arizona or San Diego might push the Dodgers, maybe not, but that's going to be probably the 3 wild card teams and the 3 division leaders.
The Brewers are locked to win their division. They have like a 10-game lead there. So they look like a lock unless there's a complete collapse. And, the Phillies look like a lock over Atlanta, but Atlanta's hanging around like about 6 games behind. It's possible they make a run and the Phillies slump, but it's highly unlikely that the Phillies, don't win that division. I mean, the Phillies in command of that division should win it. The Dodgers probably will win their division, but there are more question marks because Arizona and San Diego are just hanging around. Both of them have played really great ball. They went on a tear. They're only like, 2.5, 3 games behind the Dodgers. But you get the feeling the Dodgers are ready to surge, that the Dodgers will put their foot on the accelerator pretty soon. And when all is said and done, maybe it still will remain close for the Dodgers. More likely than not, will be the division winners.
Well, here's the scores from last night's Jack. Phillies beat Houston 5-0. Castellanos with a 3-run homer. Verlander with the loss for Houston. Noah has a great game, 7 innings, gives up no runs. So Verlander has a little problems, and the Phillies jump all over it. Kansas City, as you were talking about, they beat Cleveland 6-1, and that's what you're talking about. They tied them up. So, Cleveland, we've said it before, Jack, or I've said it before, end of year playoffs, they always seem to fall. They always seem to falter.
Well, I got to tell you something, since we're talking about the Kansas City-Cleveland game. There's a lot of talk that Bobby Witt should maybe be the American League MVP, the great shortstop for the Royals. He's hitting in the 340s, stealing a lot of bases, doing it all. And for the people are assuming, well, Aaron Judge is having a historic year. Bobby Witt's going to be given consideration for the MVP award. If Aaron Judge is just so-so the rest of the year, maybe just a little better than average, Bobby Witt's in a position to actually win that award.
I think you have a couple that are there. Granderson, am I saying it right? The shortstop for Baltimore. The shortstop.
No one else is judging with the serious candidates right now.
Okay. Washington beats the Yankees 4-2. As we were talking before the show, Yankees leave. They're 0-for-8 with runners in scoring position. They had 4 errors, and Garrett Cole takes the loss, Jack. So the Yankees found a way to lose that game for sure. I mean, but that's what happens in baseball. Go ahead.
Now, Juan Soto was so frustrated at the end of the game because he was on the on-deck circle when Gleyber Torres flied out to the edge of the warning track for the last out of the game. And you could tell he so badly wanted to get up with the game on the line at the end, and he didn't get that opportunity. So to just watch him walk back to the dugout like my night's over. He has the bat in his hand. He's like raring to go. Yeah.
You ain't gonna win if you lose 8 runners in scoring position and make 4 errors. It's very hard to win when you play that way. Atlanta beats Minnesota. Ramon Laureano doubles, 2 runs to score. So Atlanta's still playing pretty good ball. You got San Diego beats St. Louis. Manny Machado homers. A lot of base hitting by the Padres. Mets beat Arizona. This is what I'm talking about, the Mets, Jack. Here they are beating Arizona, who's in the playoff race, and then they lose to the Oakland A's or something like that. So I don't understand.
Well, I mean, yeah, well, the Mets are hanging around the playoff race on the outside, but they have teams right behind them too. So the Mets might look and say, well, we're 3 games out of the wild card position. But meanwhile, they're going to have a couple of teams that are like 2.5 games behind the Mets. So, if the Mets are playing so-so, they could get caught by teams behind them. They really got their work cut out because they'd have to make up a few games on San Diego and Arizona. They could do it, but it would be hard. And then they'd have to catch, the Braves, so like 2.5 games or so ahead of them. It's going to be hard for the Mets.
Yeah.
The Mets can't scoreboard watch. They just have to go out, win games, win. Just try to be very consistent. And I'm not sure that they're good enough to do that.
Pete Alonso hits a home run. He's tied for 3rd in team history, Jack, with home runs. So, hey, we'll see what happens at the end of the year, Jack.
He's going to be a free agent. I think the Mets offer him a contract, but I don't think he's going to get the long-term deal, like the 5-year deal. He wants at least a 6-year deal. I don't think anyone's going to offer him like a 6-year deal because he's age 30. But I can see the Mets maybe offering him like a 3-year deal. I'm sure the Mets will sit down and say something, okay, $75 million for 3 years, something like that. But he's going to want a better contract than that. So let's see how it winds up. Because if another team's willing to go 5 years, $120 million, for argument's sake, he's more likely to take the extra money. But legacy, how much does it mean to him, and how much does it mean to the Mets?
I know what I read when I read an article. He wanted a 10-year, $20 million contract, or 200 something.
Well, that's $12 million a year, Matt. What the heck are you talking about?
He wants a long-term contract, is what I'm saying, Jay.
He's not going to get a 10-year. He's not going to get an 8-year from anyone, But I wonder how much of a legacy player the Mets might regard Alonso as. He's not going to be a legacy player that's going to closely resemble what Judge is with the Yankees. Nowhere near that. But you just said it, 3rd on the team all-time in homers. Does Alonso want to be the all-time home run lead on the Mets? Does he want to set Met records? And how much does legacy mean to players? Aaron Judge stayed with the Yankees in large part because of legacy, but he had to get money that would at least closely resemble what other teams are offering. And I saw in the news, like Juan Soto was told by by someone in baseball to look at Robinson Cano's situation when he left the Yankees. Robinson Cano is a free agent. The Yankees offered him 7 years, $175 million, $25 million a year. He left for a 10-year, $240 million offer, averaging $24 million a year. Now, it was an extra $65 million, but Cano is no longer a Yankee. When I say legacy player, he's no longer a part of Yankee history as far as having a chance to get into Monument Park. Okay? Had Cano continued to play for the Yankees, he would have been a great candidate to get into Monument Park, and he would have been thought of fondly as, other great Yankees of the past. And he's not quite looked at that way because he left to be a free agent. He lost his legacy by doing that.
I hear what you're saying. Baltimore beats the Dodgers 3-2, Jack. Let's see. Ryan and Ramon, they both homer. Baltimore actually threw 5 pitchers at the Dodgers. They did it the crazy way where you're not playing, you didn't start a starting pitcher. I guess it works because they won. So Baltimore keeps pace with the Yankees, and the Dodgers fall a game that helped out the Padres for sure. San Francisco beats Milwaukee. Yastrzemski 2-run homer in the 7th to win the game, Jack. So that's it for the scores there. Ohtani became the 6th player in history to join the 40-40 club. So what he's not doing pitching on offense, he's doing everything he can, Jack. Hitting home runs, batting for average, and stealing bases. So, you got to give him credit. There ain't too many DHs around the league that are going to steal 40 bases, that's for sure.
Yeah. And, Ohtani, the buzz he's created in the past isn't quite there this year the same way as before. Maybe because of Aaron Judge going on the tear that he's going on. But people recognize Ohtani's greatness. But he's kind of slipped a little under the radar a tiny bit, I think.
Yeah. I mean, if he ever starts pitching again, and once he starts pitching again, then I think that's what elevates him up to the face of the league. So let's get into some of the NFL cuts. I can't do them all, and this means they're going to go on the waiver wire. Now we've got the practice squads. Teams may be picking up them off from other teams that cut them. They may end up back on the other teams. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes on here, but there are some cuts that of note that I want to talk about. Let's start with the quarterbacks first, Jack. Let's see. So we got New England cuts my boy Brian Zappi. Miami cuts Mike White. Minnesota cuts Matt Corral. And Philadelphia cuts Will Grier. So those quarterbacks are cut. I don't know if they end up with another team or the team takes them back and puts them on the practice squad or whatever. But those are the quarterbacks of note that were cut. Giant fans are kind of laughing right now. It's Kadarius Toney with his big mouth talking about the Giants every chance he got cut by the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's going to be a thing for fodder over on the Giant sports pages, I'm sure.
You kind of wonder Kadarius Toney getting cut by the Chiefs right now because he is a talent. Okay, I think we could agree he's a talent. And why exactly did they cut him in this camp? He didn't get into any trouble in this Chief training camp. He didn't sound off with his mouth anything. He came to camp with, I guess, a legitimate chance of making the football team. And if they didn't like his personality, why even have him in camp to try to make the team? I don't get it. And it's hard to believe Kadarius Toney isn't good enough to be on the roster. It's hard to believe.
Well,
I know Cole Hartman, who they kept, but I guess Cole Hartman.
That's about. I guess the Chiefs don't think he's better than him, or they would have kept him, Jack. I mean, I don't know what's going on in training camp. Neither do you. I don't know if he is a problem in the locker room. I don't know if he didn't play as well, as you think he was. I guess. Listen, he made a lot of drops last year. He's always injured. He's got a big mouth. And, listen, I think he'll end up on another team, Jack.
He should.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, someone should pick him up. Someone who's a little thin on the receiver position. Yeah, absolutely. He could help, he could help a number of teams, I think in some way, shape, or form, if the attitude is good. And so we'll see. He should be signed in the coming days. That would be my thought.
There are teams out there that need some help on special teams and at wide receiver. Listen, Toney, when we picked him up for the Giants, I thought it was a good pickup. He's from Florida. Some players from Florida, for some reason, are a little bit more loud than others. I don't know if it's the college culture down there or not. But anyway, I thought it was a good deal when we picked him up. I thought
Urban Meyer was very high on him. And when the Giants picked him ahead of when the Jaguars had a chance, Urban Meyer was a little upset about it because he talked about how high he was on Kadarius Toney. And so we'll see. I don't think his career is over by any means.
I don't either, Jack. I don't think his career is over. If Odell Beckham is still in the league with the last couple of years he's had, there's no reason why Kadarius Toney shouldn't be in the league.
Mac, the Giants have a chance to pick up Zappi. Now, I mean, they can pick him up if you feel he's a potential starting NFL quarterback.
I think he's better than I think he's better than Drew Lock. That's for sure. I'll take him over Drew Lock.
Pick him up. Put him on the roster.
You never know. You never know. I know they didn't cut any quarterbacks. They got 3 on their roster. So anyway, let's see. On injury reserve for the year, A.J. Dillon. He won't be playing at all this year for Green Bay. Arizona linebacker B.J. Ajulon. He's out for the year. Let's see. Washington places a tackle and an end on the injured reserve list. Defensive end Pollard, defensive tackle Taylor Smith. So those are things.
There weren't any shocking cuts, Matt. There weren't any shocking cuts. You know, maybe the one with Tony, but that was potentially to be expected. That was a big name there. Then you have some fringe quarterbacks who kicked around the league like a Matt Corral. You know, guys who were drafted in the past in the second, the third round, but were never looked at as starters. But, you know, there was a hope they could maybe develop guys who were, you know, halfway decent in college. Yeah. And they, you know, they might sign him to a practice squad, and, you know, we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you had a few wide receivers, Noah Brown. You had let me see if I can get another Tim Patrick. These guys are good, not great, not starting wide receivers. They may be able to help another team out, especially the Steelers are looking for a wide receiver. There's some teams still looking for a wide receiver.
That football is that an onside kick in the background? Is the ball spinning? Are we supposed to fall on it? That's getting me dizzy. I don't like the new format, you know. Keep it still, but we'll
do this. We'll do this for you, Jack. Is that better? Let's see. We can jump the back. I like that one better. Okay, we'll jump the background.
The big talk in New York, at least, with the final cuts was Tommy DeVito. Were the Giants going to keep him? Were they going to cut him? If they cut him and they plan to, if they were going to put him on the practice squad, they exposed them, you know, to other teams taking them. They could have lost them. And the Giants obviously didn't want to lose Tommy DeVito because another team would have grabbed him. I think, I'm not sure, I think so, because he did win 3 games for the Giants last year. So he does have some experience, and the Giants have invested time in him. And maybe they're a little like you, unsure about Drew Lock. And they know at least DeVito is competent that he can run an offense. How well he runs it remains. He knows the system.
There's a few reasons. Well, know the system, I was going to say, Jack. Price tag, too. And listen, Daniel Jones coming off a huge injury. Will he get injured again this year? And then we got an injured backup in Drew Lock. You got to have a third quarterback there.
Another element. Mac, another element. That's a possibility of why they kept him. He's a fan favorite. And they know there was some blowback to losing Saquon Barkley amongst the fan base, the media. There's going to be, if Barkley has a big year.
No, I'm not talking about Barkley.
They will not hear the end of it. They will not hear the end of it.
I'm not talking about Barkley, and that's whatever. I'm not talking about Barkley. I'm talking
about DeVito is well liked. He's a fan favorite. I kind of feel they thought to themselves, okay, we're good with carrying 3 quarterbacks. Let's stick with them. You know, and maybe showing some improvement on the field.
I just think, Jack, with Daniel Jones' injury history, with Drew Lock coming over and getting hurt, he's hurt. They've got to have a third quarterback there. And DeVito, as you said, knows the system, which I think is the main reason. And I think his price tag is really low, too. They're not paying him $1 million to play. So, I mean, listen, he knows the system, and I think that's the biggest reason why they kept him, Jack. A lot of quarterbacks get kept because they know the system. It's not that they're good. It's as an emergency quarterback, they can come in there and run the team, which makes sense to me. Jets didn't keep 3 quarterbacks on their roster. They only got 2. So, and we'll get to that. I got some news on that, too.
Well, they have Jordan Travis's, injured reserve right now, who they drafted in the 5th round out of Florida.
Well, he's not on.
I don't know what his timetable is when he might be back. He's expected to be back this season. I'm not sure when.
Well, I'm not sure either. All I know is on their 53-man roster.
Yeah, the emergency rule, Mac. I still don't believe.
I'm gonna get to that, Jack. I told you I'm gonna get to that. CeeDee Lamb signs $136 million. $100 million guaranteed contract plus a signing bonus, second only to Justin Jefferson and wide receivers. Jack, Dallas finally gets it done. Moving forward to Dak, I don't know if Dak will be there next year or not. We'll see if Jones signs him or lets him play the year out and signs him later on the year. I don't know, but we'll see what happens because Dak's going to get $60 million a year.
I think I don't know what Dak is going to get. Maybe Jerry Jones wants to see how he performs in the beginning of the year, that he stays healthy. I mean, Dak was so in the playoff game, the loss to Green Bay.
He played well. He played well against Green Bay. It was a defense that sucked.
Well, he threw a pick six too. It was a team effort, put it that way.
Yeah. I would blame the defense for that loss more than Dak and the offense. The defense just got ran over at the end. I mean, the Green Bay just ran through them like a hot knife through butter, Jack. They just destroyed them on the run at the end of the game there.
That's fair, but I think I think Jerry Jones is looking to sign his big three pieces. He will get around to signing Dak, I believe, and Micah Parsons, and take it from there. Those are three big stars. Because that's the reason they didn't make off-season moves. The Cowboys.
Well, Micah Parsons has 2 years left on his contract. They don't have to worry about him until next year.
They might make him wait a year.
Well, they got 2 years in his contract.
Yeah, but
I mean, they don't have to sign Micah Parsons.
If you do another big signing now, that could affect you for next year, the contract. That's what I'm saying.
It definitely could, Jack. You're right there. It definitely could. But I mean, if they don't sign Dak by the end of this year, Dak is going to be open to a free agent market that's going to pay him $60-65 million a year. There's no doubt in my mind about that. No doubt.
Possibly. You say no doubt. But which teams would pay Dak that type of money?
The Raiders. The Raiders, right off the top of my head.
The Raiders come to mind because they badly need a quarterback. But consider this scenario, Mac. Let's say the Raiders have a terrible year, and they're in position to draft one of the top college quarterbacks. They're not going to pay Dak the money. No way. Let's say the Raiders are in position to draft Shedeur Sanders from Colorado.
They will take Dak Prescott in a heartbeat.
No, they won't, Mac. They would have to pay a rookie contract as opposed to a monster contract.
I am telling you, Jack, the Raiders will scoop up Dak Prescott faster than anything you've ever seen in your life. He will be a Raider. He'll be in the running. The Raiders will be in the running. There's no doubt. There's going to be other teams in the running too. There's other teams that
if they can get an elite college quarterback, that's what they do.
Dak is a top 6-8 quarterback. I mean, you got to think of the Steelers, the Raiders. I mean, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. The Tennessee
Steelers are a possibility.
The Tennessee
Titans, not a chance. Texas has C.J. Stroud, not a chance.
You don't listen to me, Jack. The Tennessee Titans are another one that may pick them up.
Depends on how Mac. It's a possibility, but it depends on how Will Levis is developing. If Will Levis is coming along nicely, he's their guy for the future. They're not going to pay monster money for Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is not Patrick Mahomes.
Neither is Jordan Love. Neither is Trevor Lawrence. Neither is a lot of quarterbacks, Jack. But they're making $55 to $60 million.
But they're getting it, Mac. There's a big difference involved. They're getting it with the team they've been with all along. Okay, there's a big difference, and those teams have invested in them. They know what they can do. Dak, let's see what type of year Dak Prescott has.
Goff was with the Lions 2 years. Right, he's been there. This is his third year, I think.
He got his contract after.
He hasn't been there. He hasn't been there. He hasn't been there. He hasn't been there a long time. Jordan Love just started last year, right? He hasn't played as a regular starting quarterback for a long time. So, I mean, if you're going to pay Jordan Love 55,
you're not wrong, Mac. You're not necessarily wrong. I mean, there's a reasonable chance you're correct that one team will step up and pay him the monster money. It might even be the New York Giants. We don't know. It's based in, but will you agree on this? It's based in large part what Dak does this year. If Dak
Yes.
has an average year, they're not going to be lining up. And teams that
Dak-
can pick a young quarterback high in the draft are not
Dak-
going to pay superstar money for QB.
Dak Prescott had his best year of his career last year, Jack. Best year of his career. I don't see him dropping down any. I still think he's going to be very, very good. I think he's still being a top 5 quarterbacks this year as far as stats
He's
go.
in the top 5 right now.
Last year he had his best. He was in the MVP talk last year, Jack.
You want to talk about statistics? I'm
Well,
talking about how quarterbacks are regarded around the league.
I'm just telling you, he's a top 8, 6 quarterback around the league, stats wise. I mean, if you're gonna blame Dak Prescott for losing the playoff game last year, he didn't. It's not why they lost. He played very well in the playoff game for a change. So I mean, and in fact, he always plays well in the playoffs, but he makes bonehead decisions. He didn't make a boneheaded decision. It's the pick six. It happens. It happens to all good quarterbacks. So I think he'll be going like this, Jack. Dallas better do something.
I can understand a contender that needs a missing piece. Let's say the Pittsburgh Steelers barely missed the playoffs and their quarterback play this year is poor. Yes, Of course. If you could get a Dak Prescott, historically, there's going to be at least one team that's going to make the move. And I agree with you. The Raiders absolutely come to mind immediately.
Yeah.
But they'll need a quarterback next year.
How about
the question is this:
how about this,
will
Jack?
they be in position to draft a top one? If they are,
let me give you a proposed trade. Dallas trades Dak Prescott for Derek Carr. Straight up.
Dallas would be out of their mind.
I know. But what choice would they have? If Dak's leaving, if they find out he's leaving, and Dallas is going to have a decent team this year, they're not going to be at the top of the draft board. So if Dallas has a decent team, the New Orleans Saints will have a decent team. They're not going to win. They're not going to win nothing, but they'll be up near the top of the division. Straight up. There you go.
Well, Saints wouldn't make the deal unless they were ready to pay Dak the money.
Well, you
get
rid of Derek Carr's contract, pick up Dak's contract, and you're going to have to sign him to a little bit more money. What do you think? I mean, it's possible. It's possible.
It's tough. They're not trading. The Cowboys aren't trading Dak Prescott. They're riding with Dak this year, and I think they do re-sign him.
I don't think they can trade. He has no trade clause. He's a no franchise tag. He's the boss over there. I think they sign him, or they let Dak go free agent. But you take a gamble, free agent, if he gets hurt or something like that, he winds up with a Kirk Cousins type deal. Dak would have to agree to it. If the Cowboys came to Dak and said, "Listen, we're not going to sign you next year. The Saints are willing to trade Derek Carr for you straight up." And Dak gets a couple little promises under the table or writing he's going to get his $60 million a year or whatever he's paying. It's possible. That's all I'm saying.
Not with Derek Carr. That sounds a question. Name another team, a better example. Cowboys.
Baker Mayfield, straight up, Jack.
No, that wouldn't be done. Baker Mayfield, the Cowboys could have had him for nothing before virtually.
I know, but they didn't know he was going to be this good. So Baker Mayfield for Dak Prescott, it's a downgrade. That's all downgrades for Dallas. Dallas is
right. Well, no one's making a deal right now. He's a Cowboy for the season. That's obvious. Let's see how it goes.
All right. So Jared Mayo of the New England Patriots says Drake May has outplayed Jacob Brissett in the preseason. Is that hinting something, Jack? I mean, we know Brissett.
That's not a surprise per se. Maybe it's a mild surprise because Drake May, they said, was going to take a little while to develop. So maybe it's a mild surprise. But we know that Drake May at some point is going to be the New England Patriots starting quarterback, and there'll be no looking back to bring Jacoby Brissett into the starter's role again once he relinquishes it. But
hopefully,
a little surprised if Drake May starts the season. I still would be, but that's a hint.
Hopefully, it's a hint. I agree. Hopefully, they don't make that mistake. They did it with their quarterbacks the last couple of years, didn't they? I mean, they kept switching quarterbacks in and out, and it really was not. Hopefully, they learned their lesson. They're not going to put the second string quarterback in, and then when he plays bad and bring the first quarterback. I hope they don't do that. They should have
Well,
learned
this
a
is a different coach, Bill Belichick,
Right.
in coaching, and Bill Belichick lost all faith in Mac Jones. Mac Jones was the worst quarterback in the NFL last year. As soon as Drake May's ready to be the starter, I think he takes over. This season with New England really is mostly about Drake May's development. They're not likely to make a playoff run, or close to it.
No.
So whether they start the season with Drake May would be a surprise. If they start the season with Drake May, Mac, the thought is, wow, this Drake May, he must be good. For them to move the timetable up, I mean, he must really, really be ready. Sometimes coaches are itching to go to finally play their franchise quarterback. People forget how Tom Coughlin with the Giants handled the Eli Manning situation. He got Manning finally to start after 9 games. He benched Kurt Warner, and the Giants had a 5-4 record, and they were losing on the Manning in the beginning. Not an ideal situation, but he knew Manning was his guy.
Yeah, and in fact, they did. They talked to Kurt Warner about that, and he said, "Well, if he has a problem, we might bring you in." And Kurt Warner said, "No." Kurt Warner said, "No, that's your move. I'm not going back in for Eli."
You have to understand when a team drafts a quarterback highly, and you're the quarterback. Yeah, you're living on marked time as a starter. The only way you hold them off, if you continue to play and you play great, and the quarterback behind you gets injured, doesn't develop, like J.J. McCarthy at Minnesota. If Sam Darnold has a exceptionally good year, if it happens, okay, and J.J. McCarthy's back next year, they're not going to bench Sam Darnold. They're going to, keep playing Sam Darnold until he slips up a little and gets hurt. Then they'll go to J.J. McCarthy. They have to wait for the right time, the Vikings, to ultimately go with J.J. McCarthy.
I would think that's what I would do if that's what you would do. I can't predict what Minnesota would do, but I think you're right. I think
Sam Darnold could be a free agent at the end of the year. If he has a really good year, he might say, the Vikings really want J.J. McCarthy to start. I'm going to a team that offers me a better contract. Wouldn't it be ironic if the Giants moved on from Daniel Jones and decided, Sam Darnold's still young. He was drafted, very highly in the draft originally, and now he's finally seems to put it together. And they invest in him. I mean, you never know.
What would be more ironic? The Jets don't go to the playoffs, and Rodgers retires after next year, and the Jets bring back Sam Darnold. That would be ironic.
Yeah, it's always a possibility. It sounds a little crazy. I got a feeling with Aaron Rodgers, just a feeling, Matt. If the Jets, at the end of this year, if they ask him, you're coming back next year, and he says he's not sure, what are the Jets to do? I think the Jets have to make a move and move on decisively unless Rodgers gives them a firm commitment. He's coming back next year. Because I think this year is going to be a grind for Rodgers, no matter how the Jets do. When I mean a grind, a mental grind. At the end, he's going to put all he has into this season. I have no doubt about it, okay? But what's his mindset going to be at the end of this year? I mean, I don't know. Are they running it back with Rodgers next year, the year after? Rodgers doesn't have to be the Aaron Rodgers of old. And Aaron Rodgers at his best is one of the greatest quarterbacks ever to play the game. He doesn't have to be the same guy, Mac. He's probably not the same guy. But if Aaron Rodgers is just a good quarterback, with great leadership skills, with the Jet defense, that's fine. The Jets can win, with a good Aaron Rodgers.
I don't disagree with you, Jack. I don't disagree with you, but I want to see what happens after he gets a game where he gets sacked 4 or 5 times. We'll see. That's what I want to see. When he has a game like that, and then see how the Jets play that game and the rest of the games. Because when he gets hit a lot, he doesn't like that.
It's
I mean-
alarming, Matt, considering all the moves they made to bolster the offensive line. If the offensive line turns out to be a problem this year, wow. That's bad news because the Jets did everything, trades, free agent acquisitions, the draft. They really addressed the offensive line. And they addressed the wide receiver position.
And Rodgers is going up against the team that loves to feast on him. But the first game, the 49ers, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, well, what does this mean a little bit? Robert Saleh was the defensive coordinator, 3 years ago for the Niners. Whether there's a carryover, him understanding a little bit what they might do, the style of play. But the bottom line is this. Aaron Rodgers has to get protected. The offensive line can't be a liability. Aaron Rodgers is good at getting rid of the ball.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
he is.
We'll
But
see.
yeah, we definitely will. The NFLPA, we were talking about this, Jack, vetoes the revised emergency quarterback rule that allows a quarterback to be moved up from the practice squad to the 53-man roster unlimited. So if you're on the roster, you can play. If you're on the practice squad, there's a thing you have to do to make sure you have to bring them up. You have to put them on the roster. He probably won't be able to play that day. So the NFLPA vetoed that rule because, of course, they want the extra player. They want the extra player on the 53-man roster or on the practice squad. So that way you cut out a player, and that's what the NFLPA vetoed that.
Why don't you have this type of rule, Mac? Let me propose this with the NFL, because of what happened with Brock Purdy in the playoffs where he couldn't throw the ball, and it was dreadful to watch what happened with the Niners game. Let them keep a quarterback in the stands, whatever. He could be watching. Let him be in street clothes on the sideline. And if two of your quarterbacks are injured, once they're injured, they can't come back in the game no matter what, quarterback 1 and 2. And if quarterback 3 is in there, let quarterback 4 suit up in an emergency situation. It should be understood. The paperwork is done on them in advance. Even quarterback 4 and 5 in an absolute emergency situation.
That was just what was vetoed. They're not going to do that. Either you carry that's up to the team. Giants are carrying 3, the Jets are carrying 2. So if Rodgers gets hurt for some reason, then they're going to have to go through the whole process of bringing the guy up from the practice squad.
I'm trying to think who the Jet emergency quarterback would be. I forgot. I think it's someone who played quarterback in high school.
I think
that be done? Let's say a guy played. I never played quarterback. So I wouldn't know.
The guy's name was Randall Cobb. Go ahead. Randall Cobb.
Let's say a player. Okay, Randall Cobb. Thank you. Let's say hypothetically, any player on the team played quarterback in high school, a couple of years in high school. He was a quarterback, but then he transitioned to make the NFL in another position. And they throw him in an emergency, and he hasn't had any snaps. Can he handle the snap from center, first of all? Can he handle the ball in his hands getting snapped, the tempo, the timing? It doesn't have to be perfect. The snap be made to him at least.
They better practice that during the preseason, because I'll tell you, if you haven't done it since high school, that means at least 4 years. It's a big difference between getting a snap from a high school center and a professional football player center.
Let me go another way. Can he work out of the shotgun where they snap it to him, he catches it? Let's say it's a receiver. He'll have good hands. He'll be able to catch any snap. Now he's got the ball in his hands. Is it workable in any way? I mean, he can obviously run with the ball and maybe possibly do something now and then. But is there any way he could run any short passes or something?
Sure. I mean, but you would have to work on it. I mean, it'd be something that you would have to work on, right? I mean, I remember Troy Brown for the New England Patriots. Not only was a receiver, defensive back, kick returner, he was also the emergency quarterback. So I mean, I would imagine
after practice, basically, some guys hang around for maybe 15 minutes and say, look, this is an emergency. If something happens, we practice 10, 15 minutes.
Sure.
Hopefully we never have this, but this is our emergency drill,
Sure.
guys. You
No, I
know,
would
and they
imagine-
hang around for the emergency drill.
I would imagine that a good head coach would do that. But I would imagine there's a lot of coaches that don't do that because they're worried about other things. So anyway, Jack, to answer your question, yeah, if he was a high school quarterback for a couple of years, could he do this? Yes, but he would definitely need practice of doing it. That's for sure. I mean, he's not going to read the defense, and he's not going to do all that. He's not going to call audibles, probably. He's not going to do any of that stuff. He'd probably end up running with the ball as soon as, somebody ain't open. He's gone. I mean, that's what I think he would do. Anyway, let's get into college. I want to talk about college because college starts this week, Jack. And guess what? I'm going to ask you to just take a guess. I mean, we have Keith Angle on. If you listen to Keith Angle College Huddle on Roku or YouTube, you can learn a lot about college football. And he's already came out and said who he thinks are the better teams. So I'm going to ask you, me and you are going to pick 3 games. We got 3 games this weekend. I want you to try and pick and see what we do. Okay? And of course, this has to do, we are now partly sponsored by BetUs. These lines, Jack, are from BetUs. They're from that site. And folks, if you want to, go there and check out all the odds of the games, or you want to see me and Jack, how we do. I don't know. I don't suggest you pick with us because I don't know if we're that good. But who knows?
Well, last year, no one should bet on based on what I say. But last year, if they did that, they would make quite a bit of money on the NFL last year.
Yes, Jack had a heck of a year last year. I mean,
on the NFL, yeah.
Yes. So, Jack, we're gonna throw these things at you now. We have 3 games. Colorado State is getting 32.5 points versus Texas. Texas is number 2 in the country. Colorado State played really well last year. So 32.5 points, Jack. Would you take the underdog, or is that 32.5 points saying Texas is just going to romp them?
I'm going to give the 32.5 or whatever. With Quinn Ewers, they'll probably light it up. By the end of the game, Arch Manning will be in, and he's going to do more than just hand off. Beware, when you're offered 32 points, okay? It seems like too great to pass up, but Texas is really good. I mean, they're a potential powerhouse this year, but I would give the point.
They're definitely a potential, to get into the playoffs this year and maybe into the championship. Who knows? Notre Dame getting 3 versus Texas A&M. Keith Angle says Notre Dame is a surprise championship team this year. They're playing Texas A&M. They're getting 3 points. Texas A&M is going to have a good team this year too, Jack. I think Notre Dame's rated like number 7. Texas A&M is right next to them. So Texas A&M is at home, giving Notre Dame 3 points. What do you think?
Well, Notre Dame is an independent. They wouldn't get a bye if they,
right. They
get
got
into the playoffs. I take Notre Dame with the 3 points.
Okay. So Jack goes with Notre Dame. And the last one I got you, Jack, is USC getting 4.5 against LSU. LSU has a very high-powered offense. They're not as good defensively as they were. USC, surprisingly, Keith said, is number 20. So somebody thinks USC is going to be okay this year, but right now they're giving up 4.5 to LSU. So LSU is favored by 4.5. What do you think?
Yeah, no Caleb Williams for USC, and they weren't that good with him. I give the points. I take LSU and give the points.
Jack, I think you did really well here. I really do.
Well, let's see. That remains to be seen.
The reason why I think you did really well is because you picked 2 out of 3 teams I would. I'm taking the points for Colorado State. That's all. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's tempting, Mac. Yeah, you're going for the flash.
I know. I'm the fish, and I see the worm, and I get all excited. The lure, shiny, it's bright. I'm going to go with it. I'm going.
I know you're thinking even if your team falls behind 38-0, and then they score a touchdown, you still cover.
Right.
The one thing about giving up 32.5 points, you never feel safe until the end of the game that your bet's going to win. Because you're not going to go up 50-0, like early in the third quarter. They're going to have to pile it on, and
So, Jack, I think we're gonna.
you're winning your bet really until the end, basically.
I think we're gonna do. I think we're gonna do this every Wednesday. Of course, I'll ask Keith on 3 different games on Friday, but I think we're gonna do this every Wednesday. I'm gonna keep track of that and see how well we pick against college, because we've never done that before. And of course, like I said, scan that bar, top right. You get right to the site. Jack is good at picking the game. So anyway, let's talk a little bit. We got like 10 minutes left. Now, this is what happens, Jack, right? Florida State loses to Georgia Tech, and upset, right? I mean, we're talking Florida State was ranked 10, and Georgia Tech wasn't even in the top 25. In fact, Florida State was ranked number 1 in the ACC, Jack. Georgia Tech was ranked 9. And if you lose one game, now, if they win a division, they're in, because division leaders get in. But if they don't win the division, or they don't win the championship, and they have 2 losses, they're not going to get that bye. So the fallout from that is I don't even know where they're ranked right now, Jack. So, I mean, they were number 10. I looked in the ranking; they just let them go. They're not even there anymore.
Yeah, Nick Saban does the college, show during the week with Pat McCafferty. He does it on ESPN. And you can tell how uncomfortable Nick Saban is in the role of an analyst. And he said, I don't like making predictions. I don't like this. I don't like that. So you have to listen to Nick Saban's words carefully, because he hates predicting one team's going to beat another team or how a team is going to do. But he was talking about Georgia Tech in a way like, they're slipping under the radar, that team, Georgia Tech. Potentially, they could really surprise people, and that's what I was picking up, that Georgia Tech could be a sleeper this year.
I mean, listen, Jack, Florida State plays Memphis 14 September. They won 10 games last year. They're probably going to be another powerhouse. And then in one month, they got SMU, Clemson, and Florida. So
I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. This loss is pretty damaging. Yeah.
I don't either, Jack. I don't either. Michigan's did get a notice of allegations, has 90 days to respond. Staffers Jesse Minter and Denard Robinson are going to work with the NCAA to get a negotiated resolution. In other words, they're going to be talking, and head coach Sharon Moore could have a suspension. He could be suspended for the year because of the deleted messages, and he's a second-time. He broke the rule 2 times, meaning that he's a repeat violator, Jack. So they may lose their head coach again. What's going on in Michigan?
Who knows? I mean, but you wonder, with everything going on at Michigan, the violations, that a few years from now, are they going to be a powerhouse or not? But listen, Michigan's big game this year is against Ohio State, who they've beaten 3 years in a row. That rivalry is one of the great rivalries in sports, and the best college rivalry as far as I'm concerned. And if Ohio State beats Michigan this year, I think things start to kind of unravel for Michigan with all the allegations and this and that. But if they beat Michigan again, they kind of they become still a happy program to a degree. But I don't see Michigan, repeating as national champions this year. And with these allegations, will they be allowed to repeat as national champions in the coming years? So there are things we don't know, or there are things that are going to even be worse than said.
Well, yeah, they lost. Of course, they lost McCarthy. They lost their running back. They lost half their offensive line, half of their defense. I mean, and this on top of that, Jack. I mean, they're ranked number 7 from what I saw. I don't.
It's going to be hard with these potential violations hanging over their head.
Agree, 100%. They talk about the WNBA, the high attendance, the high rating, the higher attendance, the higher rankings. It's sold out here. It's sold out there. Guess what, Jack? They're still going to lose $50 million this year. So from clutch points, that's what they're losing this year. Now, he says, of course, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and it keeps growing, new stars. It'll grow and eventually break even. So there's a false narrative out there, Jack, that the WNBA is doing great. Well, they're not doing great still. They're still losing buckets of money. Of course, they're affiliated with the NBA, who is paying and has been paying their losses for the last I don't know how many years. So let's not get all excited about the WNBA becoming the new whatever. They're still in a lot of financial trouble, Jack.
I'm surprised considering the salaries are really low in the league, that they'd be losing that amount of money. I don't understand it.
Well, I know there have been increases in salaries, and they're looking for more increases in salaries as far as the WNBA goes.
The TV revenue now, I don't get it. I just don't get it, man.
I think ESPN is the only one, Jack, that's covering this. I don't think there is no competition to buy the contract. All I know is they're on ESPN. I don't know if they're anywhere else. And that's when you start getting your money. If you got, Fox or whatever competing, and they haven't done that yet. So that is probably the reason why. We got like 4 minutes left. Let me give you one stat. You like tennis, Jack. 1985, Mary Jo Fernandez at 14 years old becomes the youngest player to win the U.S. Open. So I barely remember that.
That's phenomenal at that young age. Sometimes you get a child prodigy, and you had it in the Olympics this year. Quincy Wilson, track and field, 16 years old. He seems like a terrific kid, and I hope he wins gold medals in the future because he just seems like such a good kid. But I don't want to hear he was a gold medalist, even though technically he was. He ran the 4x400 relay. He ran the first leg and he put the United States was in such a big hole after he ran the first leg because he couldn't quite keep up, but fortunately they advanced to the next round. And if you run in the preliminary heats, you're eligible for gold medal, even though you're not running any more heats after that and not running in the finals. He's a terrific kid, but praise him for being the youngest Olympian in track and field in the United States at 16.
Yeah.
He deserves all that praise, but I don't want to hear this gold medal stuff.
Well,
His gold medal doesn't compare to even the bronze medal won by Grant Fisher in the long distance.
If you sit on the bench in the NFL or Major League Baseball and you don't play, and maybe don't even play in a World Series, you win the World Series, you get a World Series ring. You're a World Series champion too. You're part of
No. I'm good with that.
Okay.
Him getting a gold medal and him being part of a team.
Right. That's
fine. But the narrative is for people who don't know, he's getting interviewed and it says gold medalist. Why couldn't have come close to competing with the older guys? I shouldn't say couldn't come close. He might ultimately turn out to be a great, great runner, okay? As he gets old. And he's a terrific kid. Terrific.
Yeah.
Who you want
it's nothing personal. I know. It's nothing personal. You have nothing personal. You're just saying that he really did.
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand.
People who don't know anything about track and field will say, gold medalist. He won the Olympics when he was 16. The problem is these medals. Some medals aren't as important as the other ones. I mean, a swimmer could swim like 7 events. And if their one gold medal is big as the one who wins the men's marathon or the women's marathon in running. I mean, come on. The relay event is big as winning a marathon or something like that. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I understand. I don't disagree with you. I mean, hey, listen, I'm happy the kid got that experience. And maybe, as you said, next year, maybe he's one of the top runners for our team.
Yeah. He's a lot of good for the sport. And you can't help but like him, seeing how humble he is, listening to his parents, nothing but good things,
All right, Jack. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, check out Bet Us on either our website or right there. You can scan into your mobile phone. We have the QR code. Folks, thanks for joining us. Up next is Coffee and Sports. Roku is packed today. Stay with the Roku channel. You're going to have shows coming up out of your hat. Have a good day, folks.